sir.
Om Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om. A quick recap. We are in the beginning of the 13th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Newer editions of the Bhagavad Gita after Madhusudana Saraswati have the 700 and the first verse, which is the first verse of this chapter. If we count that Arjuna's question as the first verse, then our numbering will be constant. Arjuna asks the meaning of 6 technical terms. What is Kshetram? What is Kshetrajna? What is Jnanam? What is Jneyam? What is Purusha and what is Prakriti? Krishna replies that this body is Kshetram and the one who is witnessing this body and everything else is Kshetrajna. Third verse, he brings the Mahavakya. And he says, the Kshetrajnam chapi mam viddhi sarva kshetresho bharata. Which means the one who's the conscious principle, the one who's listening right now, is the Sri Krishna or the divine principle, which is universally present everywhere. And then he says, I will give an elaborate explanation of the distinction between Kshetra and Kshetrajna. And he says, this distinction is the knowledge, is the most important thing that we need to know. And using Sankhya philosophy, he elaborates on Kshetram, but he does not elaborate on Kshetrajnam, and he has gone into the topic of values. There are 20 values he wants us to internalize, and only once these 20 values are internalized, so we are in the topic of those 20 values. Jyoti, can you explain this particular verse?
Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Maichan ananya yogena bhakti ravya bhicharini vivikta desha sevitvam arjita janna sansadi. Verse 8 to verse 11 describe 20 virtues that one should cultivate for acquiring the divine knowledge. They are instruments to transcend the mind on the flight of alone to be alone. The 11th verse describes bhakti as a virtue. Bhakti is necessary in all the 3 types of yogas, namely karma yoga in stage 1, upasana yoga in stage 2, and jnana yoga in stage 3. This bhakti is not for artharthi bhakta, but for a jignasu bhakta who is vairagya janya and viveka janya. The word meaning is a vyavabhicharini bhakti, means one-pointed devotion where God is means as well as goal, just as Shabri gopis who were embodiment of bhakti. Then the bhakti should be ananya yoga bhakti, which means exclusively united into him. And as we realize and recognize this subtle place of his in our hearts, then all our thoughts, words and deeds will become pure and refined day by day, because then he thinks, he speaks, he listens, he does everything. Vivikta sevitvam. Sevitvam means regularly. Vivikta is practice being alone, in solitude with oneself. It is the best remedy for nididhyasanam. But do not be lonely. It is living in vyavahara and talking only when necessary. And when living in solitude with oneself, stop talking to oneself, thus living in the moment. Our bhakti should not be mechanical, but it should be blissful bhakti, submerging every cell unto him. The best example of Vivikta Sevitvam Swami Ramakrishna gives of a pearl oyster who waits for Swati Nakshatra to receive a drop of water and then shuts himself until the pearl is formed and it opens. It is recognized and taken by the diver. The next word is arati. Arati is don't get interested or don't get addicted. Addicted to whom? To Jana Sansadi. Jana Sansadi is assembly or company of people. But associate yourself. Associate yourself with whom? With Satpurusha, with Satsang, and thus grow towards our goal of Jivan Mukti now and here. Thus, to summarize This verse is reflected in Swami Ramakrishna's Paramahansa's 5 commandments. The first one being keep on chanting the name of God all the time. Second, do satsanga, sadhu sanga. Third, spend time in solitude and think of Him. Fourth, continuously discriminate between right and wrong, sat and asat. Fifth, discharge your duties as a householder with full responsibility, but keep in mind that none of this belong to you. Hari Om, sir.
Thank you, Jyoti, for a very nice explanation. Verse 11. We will go to the next verse, verse 12. Dr. Asha Nayak, please.
Hello, good evening. Om Guru Pyo Namaha. Adhyatma Jnana Nityatvam Tattva Jnanartha Darshanam Etad Jnanamiti Proktam Ajnana Yadyato Anyatha. Now, the first line, second word, that is Tattva Jnana Darshanam. All these are virtues are prescribed for the sake of Jnana Yogya Prapti, and that is getting eligibility for the knowledge. Why? What do you get accomplishing that knowledge? Jnanam itself. And if I have to have value for Jnana Yogyata, then I should have value for Jnanam also. For example, if we are sitting for the entrance exam and we don't know what we are going to get, and if we know we are going to get admission in MBBS and something and going to get college, then we have the value for that entrance exam. The more value I have with regard to the end, then I'll have the value for means also. So the love of means is directly proportional to the love of the end. So I'll have value for Jnanam when I know benefit of Jnanam. There, for these virtues, I'll have, if this Jnanam, what is the Tattva Jnana? Tattva Jnana is knowledge of Tattva. Tattva is reality, knowledge of Atma, Anatma, which we have been studying right from the 7th verse. Now, Artha. Artha is Prayojanam, that is Phalam. So, we have to have when I will get this knowledge, Krishna says, benefit of this knowledge, he has dealt talking about Sthirapadnya Lakshanani and Parabhakta Lakshanani. He has mentioned earlier. In 2nd chapter, Krishna says, Atmanevat Manatushta. That is, benefit, I am comfortable with myself irrespective of any external condition. That is, Dukkeshanodu Vignama Sukheshu Vigat Spraha. Things may be favorable to me, may not be favorable to me. I have got the psychological immunity because of this Jnanam. I am not vulnerable for any mood disorder. So therefore, I am not vulnerable to any external condition. I am ever balanced. And I start enjoying this emotional immunity because of this Jnanam. And more I enjoy, more I value this Jnanam. And because of that, I have to have a Jnana Yogyata, and I start valuing Jnana Yogyata also. This is the path for Jivan Mukti. Jnana Yogyata, Jnanam, and then Jivan Mukti. Therefore, Krishna regularly reminds everybody that Jnanam gives inner freedom. Then comes the most important file and important of virtues. Already we have studied. This is the most important. That is Adhyatma Jnana Nityatvam. This is drilled into every lecture of Swami Paramatmananda. That is systematic, consistent study of Vedantic scripture for length of time under the guidance of competent Acharya. This we have to just remember and instill every day into our practice. Adhyatma means the study of Atma, And Jnanam here means inquiry. Inquiry is Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. That's called Vichara or Mimansa also. In detail, it has been explained many times, so I'm not going to tell about that. Very word Shravana means Guru comes. Without Guru, we cannot have Shravana. In 8th verse, Krishna has spoken Acharya Upasana. That is the importance of Shastra and Guru together. Acharya Upasana and Adhyatma Jnana Nityatvam stands for Shastra Vichara. And all other virtues prepare the mind, and this listening to the teaching produces the knowledge. One is preparation and another is production of knowledge. Both should go hand in hand. Shankaracharya tells elsewhere that curing the disease, patyam and aushadam, both are required. So if you do Shastra and not take care of the virtues, so that both should be there. That's why Adhyatma Jnana Nityam is like aushadam. Study and study and study, and this is very, very important. Unfortunately, Shastric structure is not emphasized nowadays. More you study, more you know uniqueness of the benefit of this. And if you follow them, knowledge will definitely come whether you want or you don't want. And therefore, Krishna concludes, Etam Jnanam iti proktam. There are 20 virtues. So virtues including Shastric Stagatra is called Jnanam. Etam Jnanam iti proktam. And Krishna says anything opposite to that, Yat ataha anyatha, means the opposite of these 20 virtues. How do we find the opposite of every word? That is, remove the amanitvam, manitvam, adandipam, dambitvam, ahimsa, himsa, ashanti, shati, ajnana. So these negative virtues will solidify your ignorance. Ignorance is very difficult to remove, and that alone in 16th chapter it is told. Hari Om.
Thank you very much, madam, for a complete explanation of this verse. And with this verse, we come to the end of the topic of Jnanam, which here means virtues. For a quick recap, what I will do is I will read all these lists for you. And as madam rightly said, whatever is opposed to this is Ajnanam. Humility, simplicity, non-violence, forbearance, uprightness, service to the Acharya, purity, steadfastness, self-control, detachment from sense objects, absence of egoism, constantly seeing the defect of pain in birth, death, old age, and disease, dispassion, non-identification with son, wife, house, etc., always being equanimous in desirable and undesirable situations, non-indulgence in people's company, constant self-inquiry, and not losing sight of the fruit of self-knowledge. All this is said to be Jnanam, and what is opposed to this is Ajnanam. We now come to perhaps the most important part of the 13th chapter, most important part of the whole Gita is what is called Gneyam. Gneyam is what is that worth knowing. Smita, can you explain this verse?
Shri Hari Om, Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha. Gneyam yat tat pravakshami yajñātvāmritam ashnute anādimat param brahma nasatta nasaducchate. Shabdartha, pravikshami, I shall teach, tat, that, yat gneyam, which is to be known, jnatva, upon which one attains, ashnute, that is, one attains, amritam, immortality, tatparam brahma, it is a supreme Brahman, anādimata, which is beginningless, uchyate, it is said to be, nasat, neither an effect, na asat, nor a cause. Literal meaning of the verse goes like this: I shall teach you that which is to be known, upon knowing which one attains immortality. It is a supreme Brahman, which is beginningless. It is said to be neither an effect nor a cause. Out of 6 topics, that is Kshetram, Kshetrajna, Jnana, Jneyam, Prakriti and Purusha, 3 topics has been explained by Krishna. That is Kshetram, Kshetrajna and Jnanam has been explained. From this verse onwards to 19th verse, Lord Krishna explains about Jneyam. The word Jneyam means that is to be known by everyone. Jneyam is similar or same as Kshetrajna itself, which is indicated as that which has to be known or realized. Kshetrajna or Jneyam is a witness of a body, the seer of the body or knower. Lord Krishna says, "Hey Arjuna, Jneya yat tat pravikshami." I will tell you that which is to be known by everyone, and listen carefully. He says, once you realize Jneyam or Kshetrajna, what happens is Amritamashnute, identification with Kshetra is causing sorrow and pain. Once we recognize our true nature, we attain immortality, that is Amrita Mashnate, freedom from sense of insecurity. Now, the characteristics of Jneyam. Jneyam is Param Brahma, that ultimate thing to be known as Brahman. The word Brahman means infinite one, which is explained in Taittiriya Upanishad as Satyam Anantam Brahmam. Infinite means which is free from threefold limitations, that is space-wise limitations, that is Desha Paricheda, time-wise limitations, that is Kala Paricheda, and the last one is attribute-wise limitation. Therefore, Brahman is Desha Kala Vastu Paricheda Shunya Brahma, therefore called Param Brahma, which is absolute. Next is Anadimat, Param Brahma. Brahman is Anadimat, that is, which does not have Adi, beginning, that is beginning, which includes spatial and time-wise. Therefore, it is Anantam, the timeless one. And next, Na Sat Tat Na Asat Uchyate. In this context, the word Asat means Karanam, any cause is called Asat. And Sat in this context means any effect or product or Karyam. A cause is called asad because any cause in potential form and anything potential is not available for our utility. Swamiji gives an example of oil in the seed and the butter in the milk. Therefore, the word asad, seemingly non-existent, which means potentially existent. Karanam and sat means not potentially existent, that is karanam. And sat means karyam, that is as good as existent, because it is available for our use. Therefore, Brahma na sat asat. Therefore, Brahman is neither karanam or karyam. Brahman is beyond realm of cause and effect, beyond time. Because cause and effect, wherever they exist, their time exists, and difference between karanam and karyam is determined by kala or time. Time only. Therefore, it is kalatitam. Therefore, Brahman has no form, no attribute, no time. Lord Krishna is bringing in the essence of Upanishad form from this verse onwards. Upanishad says, Ashabdam, Asparsham, Arupam, Avyayam, Tatrasam, Nityam, Nitya, Aghanda Vachyat. Therefore, Brahman does not have Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha. So no form, color, taste or touch. And therefore, we cannot see, hear, smell, taste or touch Brahman. And that's how we are supposed to know Brahman. Well, this will be further explained in the following verses. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Smita, for a nice and a complete explanation. As these are very, very subtle topics, I hope you don't mind if there is some repetition in spite of a complete explanation. Swami Paramarthananda long back has told us there are two fundamental principles in Vedanta that we should remember all the time. The first is, I am someone other than, I am other than whatever I experience. The first principle is what we are doing, Kshetra, Kshetrajna. Whatever I experience is an object of my experience, and whatever is an object of my experience is anatma and not me, which includes my body and my mind also. The second is whatever attributes I see belong to the object of my experience and not to me, the subject. And that is what is Krishna is telling very clearly here. I will teach you something which is worth knowing. And if you know this, you attain to immortality. Don't identify with your body and mind which is mortal. Identify with that consciousness principle which has no beginning, which has no end, which is neither cause nor effect. So this is the truth about reality. Remember always the fundamental principle of Vedanta, the Drik Drishya principle. I am the Drik, and this is the topic worth knowing. And if you know this, there is nothing else that is worth knowing. To elaborate more, it will be elaborated in the next verse. This is an even more subtle verse. Dr. Jagdish, please.
Am I audible, sir? Hello?
Go ahead.
Hello. Gurubhyo Namaha. Kshetra and Kshetragna is the field and knower of the field. We've been talking about it for quite some time now. Now, physically, the body is made of inert matter and the soul embedded in it animates it. Symbolically, a river assumes the characteristics of the sea as it flows to its proximity. And Vedantically, before the Jivatma merges into the Nirguna Brahma, he gets a panoramic view and realization of Ishvara. And we have traveled now 13 shlokas in this journey. Last class, Venkatesh laid the blueprint and Viksha gave the kutuhala of this virtual tour. Sheila took us back to the drawing board and brass tacks of the Tattva Bodha. And then the colorful list of the values was given by Satya and Sanjay. And today, the merits of seclusion, the fixity, and the exclusive attachment was given by Guruji as well as Asha and Jyoti. And in the last shloka, Smita gave us what Krishna said, I will reveal Brahman, he is neither Sat or Asat. And now coming to this shloka, which is narrated by Krishna in an almost bedtime fairy tale pattern. Sarvata Panipadam Tat Sarvatokshi Siromukham Sarvata Srutimalloke Siro Tishtati. Sorry, Sarvata Srutimalloke Sarvam Vritya Tishtati. Now, the word meaning is pretty straightforward. Tat Sarvata Panipadam. It has hands and legs. Tat Sarvatokshi Siro Mukham. It has eyes, head, mouth. Sarvata Srutimalloke. It's got ears everywhere. Sarva Maya Vritva Tishtati. All pervading, it remains. Well, just a few days ago, Krishna was navigating us through Ekarupa, Anekarupa, and even Arupa as a finish line checkered flag. But here he is saying everywhere are his hands and feet, and eyes and heads and faces and so on. He is the Kartum, the Akartum, Anyata Kartum Samartha, which essentially means he can do the possible, the impossible, and reverse the possible. The difference between the material and the transcendental is just this. While we are limited to one set of senses of eyes and ears and exist in one place, his senses see everything, hears everything, and he is everywhere. He is literally the all-pervading, or as Chandogya Upanishad puts it, Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma. Now, Swami Param sees the message through a very scientific lens. In science, as we go deeper and deeper from gross bodies to subatomic particles and finally energy, that intangible energy, the ultimate formless abstract is not available for seeing. It is Ashabdam, Asparsham, Arupam, Arasam, and Avyavam, which is also referred to in the previous person's rendition. Now, Swami Param gives the example of entering the dark room and getting slowly acclimatized to see the objects. He calls it intellectual acclimatization. Rightly so, Swamiji, because you elaborated in 12 pages of notes, which took me 3 cups of coffee and 3 repeat readings and 3 highlighter pens to fathom the darkness. While he eloquently tells about the symbiotic relationship of Sat and Asat, through nouns and adjectives illuminated through the prism of Vedanta, the gist of which is the word is, just like a man is, chair is, table is, refers to the existence, mark the spelling, which is an object of experience, and the word existent reveals the substance. It is the fundamental absolute substance. Shankaracharya sums it up in this simple shloka, Yasyaiva Spuranam Sad Atma Kamasat Kalpatakam Bhasate, means you are experiencing the different objects. You are experiencing the basic substance, is or existence. And since existence is never experienced in pure form, it is cognizable only when it becomes Rupa Nama Sahita Sat. And one is able to filter out the Rupa Nama Rasa. What remains is you in bold, big capitals, the seer or the witnessing consciousness. So we start with Sat and end in Chit, and Vedanta ends there. Tattvamasi, Aham Brahmasmi, or more clearly, Sat Chit Atma, Eva Brahma Asmi. I am the Satrupa, I am the Chitrupa, and the whole world is only Namrupa. We will have a more intensive elaboration in the subsequent Sundays in Kaivalya Upanishad with shlokas like Mayeva Sakalam Jatam, Mayi Sarvam Pratishtan. Hari Om.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jagdish, for your explanation of a very, very difficult verse. If there is two things which are difficult in Vedanta to understand is, what is this I am consciousness? I am consciousness, perhaps we could understand, but to understand that I am existence, or also the consciousness in me lends existence to everything. And that is why this existence principle is something which is there everywhere, which is the elaboration of this verse, but it can never be seen, but it because it is me. I am the one who lends existence to the whole world, just like the dream. In the dream, I am the one who is the creator of the dream. I sustain the dream, and when the dream ends, it resolves into me. So that is the best explanation to be able to understand how I can lend existence to the whole world. There are so many slides here. How can we experience pure Sat? This is something that can never be experienced because it is not an object of experience. It is you. In Chandogya Upanishad, this is the Mahavakya that the father tells the son. Shvetaketu is told by his father Uddalaka that the pure Sat is none other than Tat Tvam Asi. Nicely said in this Mayeva Sakalam Jatam and the dream example. We will proceed to Nilima. If you can explain the next verse, please.
Jai Gurudev. Going ahead with the same theme. Sarvendriya gunabhasam sarvendriya vivarjitam asaktam sarvabhruchaiva nirgunam gunabhoktrucha. Sarvendriya gunabhasam, shining by the functions of all the senses. Sarvendriya vivarjitam, yet without the senses. Asaktam, unattached. Sarvabhruchaiva, yet supporting all. Nirgunam, devoid of qualities. Gunabhoktrucha, yet being their experiencer. Seeming to possess the functions of all the senses, yet devoid of all senses, the self in us, though it is functioning through all our equipments like sense organs, and seemingly it is conditioned by them, looks as though all the sense organs are possessed, whatever all the vision and hearing capabilities, they belong to the self. But when we clearly analyze, we see that sense organs are material. Their nature is decaying and perishing, while the consciousness which is functioning in and through them, and it is the consciousness which is providing them its own individual faculty. That eternal and changeless principle, it belongs to the consciousness. Sarvendriya vivarjitam. The truth, while functioning through the sense organs, looks as though it possesses them. But in fact, it has itself none of these faculties. For example, if we can see in electricity, it is not the light in the bulb nor the heat in the heater. Yet while functioning through the bulb or the heater and conditioned by them, the same electricity looks as though it is the light or fire. Asaktam sarva chaiva. It is detached yet upholding all. We see the dream world, it is dependent on waker. On waking up, dream resolves. We feel so realistic when we are in a dream, but on waking up, none of the dream things exist. So we can see the world of plurality is not in consciousness, yet consciousness supports it. Like between like ghost and the post, no attachment is ever possible. And yet the post alone is the support of the ghost, as the waking mind alone can support the dreams. Nirgunam guna bhoktucha. This Brahma as a pure existence, it is the most subtlest concepts of Vedanta. These two important words like Sat, Chit or Satyam Jnanam about Brahman is known by Adhyaropa and Apavada Nyaya. This can be better understood with an example when a guru asks a shishya to get some water. Then he brings it in a cup. One cannot carry the water without a container. So for the sake of transaction and communication, we keep the container. It is a gauna, but water is mukhya, important. So too, having gained the knowledge of the existence, one transcends the nama rupa guna. So these all are objects are called adhyaropa, and when it is negated, it is called apavada. And it is nirguna guna bhoktrucha. We see movie on the screen, but nothing of the fire, water and different emotions touch the screen. Though without a screen we cannot see the movie, but screen is untouched. It is like so too that consciousness, it is the adhisthana, supporter of all the names and forms. It is untouched, nirguna. So, but still it is nirguna bhoktrucha, which means this self absolute, which is beyond the sense organs, mind and intellect, and from everything and without any relation to the various gunas, but the same self conditioned by the sense organs looks as though possessing them all, and proves that as though it is the sustainer of all, and expresses as though it is the experience of all the gunas, but it is the same self functioning in an individual, is the one self in all. This is the supreme truth. Jai Guru.
Thank you, Nilima. Whatever examples we give become examples only. It is extremely difficult to understand this concept of Sat and Chit. What is this consciousness? Whatever Swamiji says about consciousness and not product of the body, now we have to relate to that existence, that and how I am the one who lends existence to this whole world, to the whole creation. And the best example, or the example that we are familiar with, is the hand and the light example. So whenever you see any object, you see it because of the light on that object. And you are able to see the light because of your mind and because of your consciousness. So we have to go back to the Kenopanishad. This is elaboration of the Kenopanishad experience. In every experience can I see the experiencer. Pratibodha viditam matam. So she explained Adhyaropa Apavada Nyaya, which is the very same as the hand and the light example. So We go to the next verse, Pallavi, verse 16, please.
Hari Om, sir.
Go ahead.
Vahirantascha bhutanam acharam charameva cha sukshmatva tadavignenam dhuryastam chantike chatata. The word meaning of this is Vahi, it's outside. Cha anant, and inside. Bhutanam, living beings. Acharam, it's unmoving. Echa charam, and moving. Tata, durastam, it is far. Cha antike, and near. Sukshmat tatvat, being subtle. Tad avignyam, it is unknowable. Here Krishna says that Yagnayam, which here means Param Brahma, the ultimate reality, the Sat Chit Brahma, the Satyam Jnanam Ananta Brahma. Krishna says that this existent consciousness, Brahma, is not only in the body, but outside also. Vyakta, in the body, and Avyakta, in the space between the two bodies. Manifest is the body, and unmanifest between the two bodies. Bahistasham sacha means antaram bahishcha tata sarva vyapaya, all pervading pure existence. Acharam charameva means moving or non-moving. This seems to be an oxymoron. It means that it is really non-moving, but seems to move when the medium moves. Medium refers to the object through which it manifests. Example, light over an object seems to move along with the object. Similarly, the sun appears to rise and set, though it's stationary, because we transfer the moment of the earth to the sun. This transference of the property of the object onto another is called dharma adhyasa. Charam here refers to this transference of property that is seemingly moves. Durastaya, cha nityeke, Brahma is far and near, means everywhere. Shankara says that for a jnani, there is no physical distance between him and Brahman, whereas for an ajnani, Brahman is in the distant heavens. Now, if Brahman is everywhere, how do I recognize that Brahman? Krishna says, Sukshmatva, being devoid of attributes. Indra agocharam, so subtle, hence difficult to comprehend. Sukshmatva tata avignenam. This is Niyam. Hari Om.
Thank you, Pallavi. Difficult verses, I know, difficult to explain, difficult to understand. And let me make my own attempt to see how we understand what is this consciousness, what is this existence. Whenever consciousness and existence become one, we experience Purnatvam. And when does consciousness and existence become one in our own experience? Is the experience of deep sleep. In deep sleep, when consciousness and existence come together, there is no sense of limitation at all. And I experience whenever there is no sense of limitation, there is a sense of Purnatvam, there is a sense of fulfillment. The moment we wake up, along with us wakes up our mind, the interface. And the moment the interface comes, there is a seeming split. There is an existence in front of me and there is a consciousness here. And as long as consciousness and existence are separate from one another, we experience samsara. According to Vedanta, this whole world is very similar to the dreamer and the dream, and the dream being not apart from me. The dream being my own creation, that which I have sustained and that which is also me. And our teachers also give an example of what is called Vishayananda. In Vishayananda means Now, if I see something which I like, and Swami Anubhavananda's example also for Rasagulla. Now, I am conscious and there's a Rasagulla in a plate. Existence is there. So what does the person do? He takes the Rasagulla and puts it inside his mouth. And for a moment, existence and consciousness have become one. When consciousness and existence have become one, for some time there is an experience of Purnatva. Use this example to see how we can understand some of these subtle aspects, whereas consciousness is within, existence is outside, but this is only seeming, because other than conscious existence, there is nothing. It is because of our mind, there is a feeling of a separation between consciousness and existence, because other than conscious existence, which is actually one. This is what has to be understood. This is one of the most subtle factors. This is what is called Gneyam. And if this is understood, our Krishna says, you understand all that is supposed to be understood. We have 2 more verses in the same topic, which will help us to understand. Triveni, verse 17, please.
Good evening, Doctor. Gurubhyo Namaha. Avibhaktam cha bhuteshu vibhaktam iva cha sthitam bhutabartru cha tatneyam grasishnu prabhavishnu cha. Avibhaktam sthitam cha tatneyam bhutabartru cha bhuteshu vibhaktamiva cha grasishnu cha prabhavishnu. He is indivisible, yet he appears to be divided amongst living beings. Know the supreme entity to be the sustainer, annihilator, and creator of all beings is the translation. Brahman, the omnipresent, sarvatra, at all times, in and as and through everything, is expounded in verses 16 and 17. God may appear to be divided amongst the objects of his creation, but since he is all that exists, he remains undivided as well. For example, space may seem to be divided amongst the objects that it contains, yet all objects are within the same entity called space, which manifested at the beginning of creation. Again, the reflection of the sun in puddles of water appears divided, and yet the sun remains indivisible. Or we can also look at the example of electricity as mentioned earlier, which looks like it functions differently in each appliance, but is really one continuous circuit that begins at the power plant. We can also look into the clay and the pot, which has been explained many times. Just as the ocean throws up waves and then absorbs them back into itself, similarly, God creates the world, maintains it, and then absorbs it back into himself. Therefore, he may be equally seen as the creator Hello?
Please continue. Continue.
He may be equally seen as the creator, the maintainer, and the destroyer of everything. Sri Krishna continues to elaborate upon the topic of Gneyam, that which is to be known, which is Brahman, the eternal essence. Here he further describes the distortion created by upadhis or conditionings in our understanding of the eternal essence. He begins by asserting that the eternal essence is undivided, it is unbroken and continuous. It cannot be chopped up into pieces. But due to the effect of space as an upadhi, it appears as if the eternal essence exists differently in various beings. If our senses cannot access, there's some disturbance, Doctor. If our senses cannot access upadhis, such as pots or appliances, they mistakenly assume that subtle things such as space and electricity are absent. Similarly, the body of a living entity serves as an upadhi where we can feel the presence of the eternal essence. So if there is only one continuous and undivided eternal essence, how do we account for all the creation, sustenance, and destruction of names and forms in the universe? Sri Krishna says that ultimately it is the eternal essence that provides the foundation for the life cycle of the universe. Consciousness is all pervading, but we experience consciousness only where the body medium is available. So therefore, here consciousness can be recognized. In another living being, consciousness can be recognized, but in between the consciousness is not recognizable. Therefore, what we will conclude will be, there is one consciousness here and there is another consciousness there. And therefore, how many consciousnesses are there? So many. Therefore, there is a seeming division, but the fact is, consciousness is between in what form? Unrecognizable form. But wherever body is, it is recognized. We may recall the example of the hand and the light here as well. And that Brahman is Jagat Srishti Sthiti Laya Karanam. Out of that pure Brahman alone, all the names and forms of the universe have originated, and they exist and they dissolve into that Brahman. Another example that can be cited here is that in a hall of mirrors, for one subject, there are numerous reflections. So, Prabha Vishnu means Srishti Karanam, the creator. Grasishnu means Laya Karanam, the destroyer or the resolver. And Bhuta Bhartru means the Sthiti Karanam, the sustainer and nourisher of all Bhuteshu, all beings, animate and inanimate. In conclusion, we will see that in Bhriguvalli in Taittiriya Upanishad, Yato va imani bhutani jayante, out of that Brahman alone, all the Nama Rupa has come. God's personality includes his various energies. All manifest and unmanifest objects are but expansions of his energy. Thus we can say he is all that exists. Accordingly, Srimad Bhagavatam also states, Dravyam karmacha kalahacha swabhavo jiva evacha, the various aspects of creation, time, karma, the natures of individual living beings, and the material ingredients of creation are all the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna himself. There is nothing in existence apart from him. Thank you.
Thank you, Triveni, for a complete explanation of one of the most difficult aspects of whole of Vedanta. So, if many of us who are listening have not been able to understand the intricacies of what Triveni has said, I would only say be a little patient. We are very fortunate to have a great teacher in Swami Paramarthananda ji, who's Sakshat Dakshina Murti, because he's able to explain these concepts. So what we need to do is listen to his explanations again and again, and through our own study groups, interact with another person whom you think would know. And that is the only way you will be able to understand this very subtle entity of conscious existence, how it seemingly appears to be separate from one another, and how we are actually one and the same. We come to the last verse on this theme of Gnayam, and we have Dr. Sundar to explain the verse 18. Dr. Sundar, please.
Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. So we are now seeing the answers for the fourth question, Gnayam. And this being Brahman, these verses all have Upanishad expressions in them. So the last several verses dealt with the Brahman as Sat. And in this verse, there is a shift in gears, and Brahman is being presented as Chit. Jyotisam apita jyoti tamasah paramuchyate jnanam gneyam jnanagamyam Ridhi sarvasya visthitam. Tat in the first line refers to Brahman, which we have learnt about in the previous verses. So that Brahman is being expressed through several adjectives in this verse. One of them is Jyotisam api jyotihi. Another is Tamasah Param. Third is Jnanam. Fourth, Gneyam. Fifth, Jnanagamyam. And sixth, Hridi Sarvasya Visthitam. Let's look at each of them now. First is Jyotisam api Jyotihi. So Brahman is being referred to as light of all lights. In our scriptures, whatever makes something knowable, whatever illumines something, throwing some light, is referred to as Deva or Jyoti. So this could be for words, could be for logic, could be for our sense organs, which illumine their field of sense objects. A little more subtle than the sense organs is the mind, which is able to illumine the field of all the sense organs. So this verse says that what we refer to as Brahman so far, or now being referred to as consciousness in this verse, is the light of all lights. The reason for this is going back to Drishya Viveka. The light of consciousness is the ultimate drik. It is the experiencer for all what is experienced. So therefore it is the light of all lights. The second expression, tamasa param, it is beyond darkness, beyond ignorance. The normal light is unable to illumine darkness because the moment light comes, darkness disappears. My eyes are unable to function when there is darkness. So this light of consciousness is superior or superior most because it can dissect ajnanam, tamasa, threadbare, and destroy it. Third expression here for tat jnayam or Brahman is, this Brahman is jnanam, which in this chapter means actually means of jnanam. This is also jnanagamyam, or the goal of such means. And it is also knowledge itself, which is jnayam. With the previous expressions of Sat, we would imagine what is being described as being everywhere in the furthest most reaches of the universe. Krishna here says, don't look for it somewhere far away. It is Hridi Sarvasya Vistitam. It is there within all, each of us, Hridi, in the cave of the heart. So in the cave of the heart, normally the mind is supposed to be stationed, and in the mind, as a witness of arrival as well as disappearance of thoughts, all the fluctuating thoughts, is stationed the light of consciousness as a witness of those thoughts. Question could be, just now we said it's everywhere. So why are you saying that it is in the heart? So Swami Param says, just as India is everywhere, whereas the head office is in Delhi, in the same manner, consciousness is everywhere, but the locus is said to be in the middle of the heart. So similar verses are there in Upanishads like Kenopanishad, where it is called as eye of the eye, ear of the ear, and in Mundaka Upanishad, in the Dvitiya Mundaka, Dvitiya Kanda, which is dealing with the Para Prakriti, where we have expressions like Jyotisam Jyotistad and Natatra Suryo Bhati and so forth. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Sundar. This is the pinnacle. This is the pinnacle verse, and it's so nice that you got to explain this nice verse. You already said consciousness is the light of all lights, and I like this word Mahadeva. Deva as you some disturbance. Deva, as you explained, is the light of all. Deva is like light. All our sense organs are called lights because they illumine, they make things known. And all the devas are the divine forces which keep our sense organs alive, functional. So Mahadeva, Shiva, is considered to be the light of all lights, or consciousness, as you explained, is the light of all lights. The other word you said is Tamasaha Param. Light can illumine. Light can never illumine darkness. The moment light comes, darkness disappears. But the light of consciousness can illumine darkness. Example, I know English, but I do not know Greek or Latin. But I know that I do not know. So that is what is called Tamasaha Param. With that, we have come to the most important part of this chapter. We have gone through those nice verses which talk about Neyam, which Sri Krishna again and again says, this is something that is worth knowing, and through our own self-help groups. And I want people to be able to interact how you get to know these things, because there is no point proceeding if these things are not understood. We have one verse, the 19th verse, which we'll talk in the next week. And then Sri Krishna comes to elaborate a little more on Kshetra and Kshetrajna through the concept of Purusha and Prakriti. With that, we come to end of today's class. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhaveet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.